This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The stakes have never been higher. The competition has never been stronger. 42 drivers, 25 rounds. One will be crowned champion. Competition. Commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. You're watching the premier American Open Wheel Series on iRacing. The Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical Equipment starts now.
Sponsored by First Medical Equipment, competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. Kansas has been the site of some spectacular finishes in the Lionheart series. And, back in 2016, the finish was so close that, well, yes, the commentators, us, I was on that broadcast, we didn't even know who won. But this year, the racing in Lionheart IndyCar series has produced some spectacular moments, such as the Indy 500 decided by a scant 2/100ths of a second. Put these two ingredients together and you virtually guarantee an awesome race tonight. That might be why we've called it the GSRC Big Joe Show Spectacular. Tonight, all of the simulated Dallara IR18 action of the Big Joe Show Spectacular at Kansas Speedway will be live as it happens right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Good evening, folks, from the Sunflower State. Hello, and welcome to another GSRC broadcast and the Sim Experience Countdown to Green. Over the next 15 minutes, GSRC will bring you all the storylines, all the stats and facts you need to appreciate this race tonight here, the Big Joe Show Spectacular at Kansas Speedway. That will immediately follow as we count down to green. Coming at you live tonight, it is the great Richie Hearn sitting alongside me, Sean Ambrose. We've got Amjad Yaman back there twisting and tweaking the dials for us, armed with cameras locked and loaded by the great one, the almighty Dougie Beard. Richie, I heard you had some intense moments on this track just a few years ago. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it and maybe a little bit about your time on this track?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sean. And it wasn't just a few years ago. It was probably more like 15 years ago. Seems like just a few years ago.
That's
but yes,
few.
Yeah, right. But yes, here we are at Kansas Motor Speedway, located, as you can guess, in Kansas City, Kansas. It is a true D-shaped oval, 1.5 miles long. It's fairly banked, 17 to 20 degrees in the corners, just about 5 in the corner in the straights. That front straight is a little tricky with that bank, but it does have a wide apron that you can use. The track is fairly easy to drive. Car's pretty planted, but it does get a little bit hectic because it does create a lot of pack driving, and that's what we're going to see tonight. So, driving around here at 230 miles an hour is not so hard by yourself, but you're running 3 wide, 3 deep. That's when it gets a little bit tricky. So that's what we're going to have to watch out for tonight. But probably the best way for you folks to really see what it's like to drive these Speedway cars around here is to jump on board that GSRC lap guide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek, taking you for a spin around the Kansas Speedway in the GSRC IR18 IndyCar. Without further ado, here we go. For your money lap, bring it right down here to the apron, off of turn 4, kind of cut that straight up. There's a sign on the wall there that you're going to kind of want to start to turn off. Depending on the setup, you might be able to turn in a little earlier, but you're really going to want to keep those left sides planted on the white line, as you're going to see down here into turn 3. Same situation. Drive it in. This car doesn't like to be pinched off, really, but for the money lap, you can kind of pinch it there, bring it right along the apron, bring those tires along that on that paved off area. Now, with Kansas being the way it's constructed here on iRacing, you can run almost anywhere in these cars. It's going to be a heck of a show. So you can kind of run the middle seam right there. Try to get a good run, try and get away from the other guys, get yourself some clean air. But then turns 3 and 4, you could be right up here, a couple inches away from the wall. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, and it's guaranteed to put on a great show. Off of turn 4, down the front stretch, and across the line. And that's going to complete our guide here around Kansas Speedway. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
And as you can see from our video there, pretty easy, pretty much wide open all the way around, but that little bit of pavement at the start-finish line, that the apron there can be used, but it can be a little tricky as the transition is not completely flat. Well, the Countdown to Green is brought to you by the Sim Experience, the team behind the AccuForce Pro V2 direct drive steering systems. By providing unparalleled realism and the most advanced tuning features on the market, the AccuForce provides a significant advantage to any sim racer, and it also makes for an effective training tool for real-world drivers. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, including their GS5 seat, Stage Series motion systems, and Sim5 software, visit www.simexperience.com and use the promo code SimXLion to get 5% off your Sim5 software.
All right, Richie, thank you. And why don't we talk about the driver standings real quick? Now, of course, last week, Adam Blocker pretty much, well, he didn't pretty much, he sealed it. He is the champion here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. But the real fight, what we have left here in these driver standings, presented by First Medical Equipment, Guerin and Kinsella, are basically going to be racing for second from here on out. Now, Guerin currently holds the lead over the Canadian by 90 points. However, with 3 races, including 1 double points race, anything could really still happen there. Now, Guerin has finished second in 3 straight title fights, while Kinsella has finished third in both of his Lionheart seasons. Neither should get too comfortable, though, because closing in fast behind them is Yaz, our good buddy Brian Yazek, who's having a second half of the season. Remember, 26th place after the first half of the season, and Yazek has worked his way all the way back up to 4th place in this race with some consistent stellar runs, and sitting now just 48 points back of Kinsella for third, and of course coming up pretty fast here, guys. Now, listen, the team standings, a little bit, okay, so Adrenaline's kind of walked away with it, but really what we've got to focus on here with the races left is the battle right now for third between Adrenaline, LPM, Cancer Down, Skidmark, Black. That is going to be the one to watch, because really that the pendulum could swing either way here. Anyone's that third spot is really up for grabs. Now, it almost seems like nobody really wants to win that third spot, and that's going to segue me to, of course, the rookie standings. I'm going to hand that off to Richie. Sorry, Richie, and let him talk to you about those.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, these Rookie of the Year standings are presented to you by Butt Kicker. As you can see, there's been no change in position, but the points up top between Rigney, Martinez, and Hill is tight, and it's going to go right down to the end. We've been watching this all year long, and John Hill is really right there. I mean, it doesn't take much to swing this, just a bad finish, and like I say, we do have a double points race at the end, and pretty much some meaningful prizes for this Rookie of the Year winner is $75 plus a BetKicker Sim5 software key and more await the winner of the Rookie of the Year. So right now it's a little too close to call, and we'll keep an eye on this as we go.
All right, and now let's remind everyone you are watching us here on the iRacing Esports Network. Of course, the best in the iRacing World Championships. as well as many of the top private leagues like the one you're watching right now are showcased right here on the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to IESN. You can do that now. If the button's red, that means you haven't subscribed yet. And when you get done, maybe pull up GSRC, give us a sub too. We're certainly proud to be part here of the IESN stable of broadcasters. Richie, why don't we go ahead and segue to the series details? Of course, as we do that, we want to remind everyone that the Lionheart IndyCar Series, considered the premier fixed setup racing league for the Stelia R18 on the iRacing service. And of course, by their name, they honor the memory of the late Dan Weldon. And we'll get over to those details now, and presented by Minus 273, Richie.
Yeah, these series details do come to us thanks to Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit www.273.biz. Use the promo code LHRS for 25% off all your orders. And here we have our series details. We are working season 7 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, round 23 of 25, with 3 driver drops. We're getting down near the end here. Dallara IR18 is the car we are using, and the setups are fixed, but they have been adjusted, and they're always working on a cash and prizes totaling $9,652.
All right, Richie, thank you for that, buddy. And we are in qualifying right now, and Andrew Kinsella currently sits on the pole on board here with Christopher. And Stouffer currently looking for a little more out of that qualifying. He was 8th, goes across the line. Chris Stouffer just goes to the pole, folks. Not long. Brandon Lemkeman takes his spot atop the pole here as he decides that's enough. With 2.5 minutes left here in qualifying. Everybody got several laps in. Well, that wasn't long. Connor Harrington now goes top. It seems like this second lap much faster, Richie.
Yeah, well, it takes a little bit to build up that speed. You know, it is pretty, like I said, pretty easy flat out. So when you leave the pits, you just got to build that speed up and get that momentum going. But these times are going to be really close. I mean, you can see right now, basically from 1st to 15th, 16th is only 0.7 of a second. And even look at the top 5, we're going down to the thousandths of a second here. For
right,
exactly. So, it's not going to really matter that much. You know, it's going to be pretty much a pack race. So really where you start, it's just a matter of how crazy you're going to be, whether you're in the middle, the front, or the back. And a lot of this is just going to be survival and getting near the end and race it right to the finish line.
Now for qualifying here, they've gone late in the afternoon here, partly cloudy skies, 93 degrees on track. It's only about 74 outside, 74, 75. But it's just after 5:30 in the afternoon, virtual standard time now, as we watch Brian Carey, Adrenaline Motorsports Red, come around, see what he can put on the board here with just about a minute left. Carey's still looking for that first lap here to qualify. Decided to come out late. Harrington's still holding on to the pole.
Those times between 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, you got to really, and 4th. I mean, basically, Anzaldo and Lini tied, all the way down to the 0.005 of a second, and boy, that's I don't think I've seen that before.
Galvin comes out at his second lap there, and that was only good enough for 16th. There's Dandy Dan, and there's the pole for Dan Guerin. He'll be happy with that. Dan, of course, announced he's stepping away from a little bit of competitive racing here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series next season. Certainly looking for a couple more wins before this is all said and done with. That's a good way to start with pole. About 10 seconds left in qualifying.
Yeah, this track is right up Dan Guerin's alley. Being a super speedway, he's always really, really, really good at these races.
Yeah, it's right up Big Joe Hassert's alley, too. So, although he didn't qualify very well, let's go to the grid here. And we'll tell you where Big Joe's at. But on the front row, it's going to be Dan Garrett and Connor Harrington Second row, Ron Hacker. Georgia and Salo with a great qualifying effort there on the outside of row 2. Row 3, Chris Laniti and Brandon Limpman will start 6 in his number 73. Row 4, Tony Schowen and Chris Stouffer will start 8th today in a number 7. Row 5, fielded by Ken Hacker. He'll start 9th, and Tyler Croft is starting 10th today, Richie.
Yeah, starting in the 6th row in the 11th position is going to be Brian Yazik, and right next to him will be Andrew Kinsella. Starting in 13th will be Brian Beard, and 14th will be Steven Larkamp. Starting 15th will be Big Joe Hassert, and 16th will be Damon Martinez, one of our Rookie of the Year contenders. Starting 17th will be Jason Galvin, and next to him, Mark Cohn in 18th. Justin Weaver starting 19th, and right next to him will be Brian Carey in 20th. James Brandt, I'll just finish it out. James Brandt in 21st. Christopher Reagan making his second start here will be in 22nd. Really surprised to see this. Adam Blocker, our current champion, is going to be starting 23rd. And 24th, 25th, and 26th. These guys did not put a time in. That'd be Bart Workman, Mike Rigby, and Sage Carroll.
Yeah, Sage deciding not to qualify. I wonder if that was by choice or maybe got a little late to the qualifying session itself. Not sure.
Actually, it's showing that he got an end the line penalty from something.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. It looks like let's see, Bart Workman, Mike Rigney, all back there with those end of line penalties. But now the cars start to roll off the pit lane here at Kansas Speedway. Let's go for the onboard cameras here. The Big Joe Show, the number 11. The Big Joe Show spectacular onboard camera tonight. Of course, LPM Cancer down his team. And then we'll roll on to Chris Stouffer. And of course, the number 7, the minus 273 onboard camera. For more information on minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit www.minus273.biz. Don't forget to use the promo code LHRS for 25% off of your orders. And then we go to Brandon Lemkeman in the number 73, the familiar number 73, the first medical equipment onboard camera, your source for medical supplies and equipment in the Burlington, Iowa area. Folks, Kansas Speedway, the Lionheart IndyCar Series, 134 laps tonight. This season winding down, lots of fun left. We're mean green and underway here in Kansas. Dan Guerin takes him across the stripe down into turn 1. Connor Harrington, Ron Hacker, all get away from George Anzaldo and Brandon Limpman side by side as they get out of 2 down the backstretch. It'll be the lead.
Yeah, I was going to say, already Connor Harrington trying to go around the outside of Dan Guerin. Early on, it's going to be, tires are going to be good, so the short way around is that white line. But Connor Harrington is able to hold on to that position. He's got Ron Hacker, Brandon Limpman, and George Anzaldo, and the rest of the pack all right behind him.
Yeah, Richie, they've stacked it up. They kind of broke away line of stern at the first lap, but now it's side-by-side racing all the way about 12 deep. Well, maybe even a little deeper than that, but up front, it is Dan Guerin to the front. Connor Harrington, Ron Hacker back there behind him fighting.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much like this for a while. It's 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. Nobody's going to be able to get away, and hopefully they're just kind of taking a breath, just kind of relaxing a little bit, holding their nose until maybe a little tire wear starts splitting the group up a little bit, and then we'll see how the strategy plays out from there.
Back behind Yazik, Andrew Kinsella making a move under Ken Hacker, Richie, as they got across the stripe. Kinsella trying to pick up a spot. He's bringing Big Joe Hassert with him, the Big Joe Show.
Yeah, there's so many cars in that pack, it's hard to keep an eye on who's moving and who's going, but up front, it's just basically just like how we started with Guerin on the inside leading and Connor Harrington on the outside in second.
And George Anzaldo twitched back there next to Ron Hacker.
I'll be surprised if pretty soon we don't see people trying to make it 3 wide. Because if you're just going to sit there like that, there's no point in racing. So we got to make some moves at some point. But right now everybody playing it pretty easy and just kind of just holding their spot.
Tried to make it 3 wide back there with Lemkeman, Stouffer, and Lanini. They're all fighting. Stouffer actually up a couple of spots already. Did it by getting through that pack, making a couple of moves.
Yeah,
Garrett
he's
continued to beat him around.
I was just going to say, Stover's working that outside line, trying to keep the momentum up. Oh, we got a wreck in the back.
Oh, and it was Sage Karam. And it is a big one for Sage. And it looks like he made contact.
Yeah, it looks like he made contact. Yeah, it looked like Sage tried to go up the middle. It was 3 wide for a second and just kind of got squeezed up into Kinsella. And then he got hit from behind there. Tried to make it 3 wide going into turn 3, and he just kind of washed up a little bit, clipped Kinsella, slowed down, and then there he goes, up and over.
Yeah, I think it was Galvin that gets him last after the contact here, and Sage goes around, and then Galvin's going to get him as he's coming by. I think he'll be the last car to come through there.
We do have some guys pitting. So Connor Harrington, the leader, stays out. And
Stouffer leads him down.
Sorry, Dan Guerin's leader stays out. Looks like the top 5 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys stay out, and the rest of the field pits. So this will make it interesting. If we go green flag, this is going to change everything up.
Well, Richie, you generally tell me tires are king. I mean, about 7 laps. I guess deeper into the run, that'll make a bigger difference, right? Maybe not here generally just right off the start.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done any practicing here, so I don't know how those tires go. I don't think it's so much a tire thing. I think it's more of a fuel strategy thing. Okay. So they might be expecting like a long green flag run and take the time to pit. So I think that's pretty much where it is. I mean, if you're in the middle of the pack, sometimes you got to take this chance. If you can't get by everybody on the track, take a chance on your strategy.
Now, I've got some information that they're telling us a solo run about 37 laps. They thought maybe the pit window would be somewhere between 25, 37 laps or so. So I guess we'll see for our leaders. Green flag will pretty much dictate all. We'll see. We got off to a good start there. Unfortunate to get that wreck there at the back, and certainly unfortunate that Sage Karam got caught up in it, and he's gotten out of the car for the evening. But we'll get back to racing here as the lights have gone out on the pace car. Dan Guerin leads him around one more time to get ready to go back to green flag racing here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. The Big Joe Show Spectacular here tonight at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, we will have a single file restart here, so just be one long line of cars and probably see some people taking some chances early on. I do see that Andrew Kinsella survived that wreck, and he's back out there.
All right, well, here we go. Ford Mustang pace car leads him off the back stretch. It'll all be up to Dan Guerin as he gets the field set. Hang on to that connection there, Dan. Very slow here on these pace laps. 70 miles an hour. Here we go. The pace car's off. Everybody waits on Dan, and now he goes. Green flag is in the air. Dan gets a nice jump on Connor Harrington. And the field quickly starts to spread out as we go down to turn 1. You got to go all the way back to Damon Martinez, Stephen Larkamp. That's where the racing is going on back there for 10th.
Yeah, those guys spread out too wide. Everybody out in front of them is single file at the moment. That's going to change. But yeah, Stephen Larkamp trying to hold off. A couple guys behind him, Martinez and Big Joe, 12th.
Oh, and this Stratford. Oh!
We have a wreck up front. Harrington trying to go around the outside of Dan Guerin, and it might have been a little bit of net code. They got really close, and that's one thing you have to be careful of is getting that close because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Because in the turn one here, he kind of squeezed down, and
I think he called it.
I don't know. It was pretty close. Dan Guerin got a little movement on that, so it might have been a little bit of both. But
Yeah,
that's going to be the end of Connor's race.
boy, it sure is. That car just totally done after that, and I don't know who that car was that hit him as he went down to the bottom. Thought he was trying to avoid Harrington and just plowed right into him. On board with Ron Hacker. This will be his view.
Yeah, this would be a good view there. As you'll see, they kind of squeezed each other down. I don't know if they thought they were part of the Ferrari team or something. But they could have given a little bit more room this early in the race. But unfortunately, Connor's going to be out of the race.
Okay, nobody opts for the pit lane. Not yet, anyway. Everybody going to stay out here. We still got a long.
If I was in the back, I'd pit. You might as well just take the fuel, because you do have some people pitting there in the back.
See that? Yeah.
The fuel's free, so it's basically a free pit stop if you're running in the back. And you never know, if we go 100 laps, green flag, they're going to be looking pretty good.
Good point indeed, and Bart Workman leads that group down.
I think it's Adam Blocker, Andrew Kinsella. They're the ones who I would follow. They always seem to get the strategy pretty much right on the money.
Now, not much changed from qualifying to the race. Temperature's down a little bit. It's down to about 90 degrees now. So as the afternoon continues into the evening here, almost 6 o'clock, virtual standard time, 6 o'clock p.m., that is. And, of course, when we were talking about the track information earlier, we talked about how this is pretty much one of those standard 1.5 mile tracks. Richie, of course, you raced here. You raced here for Sam Schmidt Motorsports. I think you were quoted as saying that was one of the most intense races you've ever been in. A lot of fun here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fun, but it's not like amusement park fun. It's fun if you survive it, but I mean, it's you just kind of constantly worried about what could go wrong, and you're kind of stuck out there. Unfortunately, you can't lift. You can't just go, well, I'm just going to back off and just do my thing. You got to stick it in there, and sometimes the people you're racing with maybe aren't the most competent on these type of tracks. So it makes it's fun when you afterwards you're like, man, that was pretty intense fun, but you also know what could go wrong.
You had good results here, some top 10 finishes, so it certainly wasn't the worst track on the circuit for you.
No, I liked it. I always like those races. I like it's kind of a strategy, like a chess match almost. Right. But I also know how intense it can be, and like I said, it's not like woohoo, this is so much fun. It's more like, yeah, that's pretty intense. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it, but it's pretty wild.
It's that adrenaline rush that a lot of thrill seekers, are constantly going after. And I can absolutely relate to that somewhat. Certainly not the speed of it all. When you talked about in the pre-race when we were chatting about over 230 miles here, I think I'm good in my 93 Camry. I'll stick with that. So at least at my age now. So.
Yeah, well, me too at this point.
All right, well, we get ready to crank it back up here. It's still Dan Guerin. It's still Ron Hacker, George Anzaldo. Your top four basically have stayed out. Ken Hacker back there in seventh. In sixth. He's actually stayed out as well. Christopher has taken a stop, but he finds himself in fifth in the middle of these guys. The race still very young. The lights are out on the pace car as we head down that backstretch. We'll restart with 119 laps left to go here in Kansas. Not very windy here today. Kansas, you generally think of wind, lots of it, but not today. We're good. They come off of turn 4. The pace car goes in. Dan Guerin, he gets started a little bit quicker that time. Doesn't hold up the field. Everybody gets started off at about equal pace. They get a nice spread across the front straight, down into turn 1.
Yeah, they're all really spread out, especially if you go back to about 8th or 9th position. But here comes Ron Hacker on the outside of Dan Guerin. He's going to bring along George Anzaldo. They're going to leave Dan Guerin alone on the bottom, but he does a good job. He always does a good job at these tracks, just hugging that white line, making it really difficult for these guys to go around him. And I think that's one thing that makes him successful at these tracks. He just does a good job at protecting that spot. But right now, everybody's packing back up.
Yeah.
Dan Guerin still has a lead. Ron Hacker's still going around the outside, but all of a sudden now we have, instead of a 2-car battle, we have about a 6-car battle or 7-car battle.
That escalated quickly. It only took a lap and a half, and so much for the line of stern racing. It's done. George Anzaldo's still hanging there on 3rd. He is running that higher line a little bit, and I see creeping up in that higher line is Brian Yazik back there.
Yeah, George Anzaldo's trying to hold that higher line, but he's got basically Christopher going even higher in the corners, trying to get around him. So he's trying to do 2 things at once, try to stay in the draft of Ron Hacker, but also keep Christopher behind him. Brian Yazik doing the same thing, peeking out above, and he looks like he's going to try to go around the outside of Christopher as Christopher decides to go down to the bottom lane.
You got to be careful Stouffer doesn't try to make it 3 wide. One of those guys that is always willing to take a risk.
Meanwhile, while they're going too wide and punching a hole in the air, it's starting to bring more and more cars from the back into this battle. And this is how it's going to be all day long. It's pretty much nobody's going to be able to get away, especially when they're running 2x2.
Yeah, you talked about the guys that were bringing in. It was Damon Martinez and Stephen Larkamp they're bringing along with them. The Big Joe Show just behind them. So that makes that pack now about 11 strong. Boy, it's going to get dicey really quick here. It's just as I said that.
It already is dicey.
Yeah. More cars coming into this picture, though. Here comes Brian Beard and James Brandt back there now into the picture.
And I also keep you updated on a Rookie of the Year battle. Damon Martinez sitting 9th. Brian Carey sitting in 14th. John Hill is not here tonight. So it's really those 2 guys battling for the championship lead at the moment. Or Rookie of the Year standings lead, I should say.
Trying to hold our breath here a little bit. We'd love to see this continue green at this pace, at this level of excitement, but you just got to wonder, somebody just has to lose focus for just a nanosecond, and it could all go wrong for the entire field.
Christopher's done a good job kind of weaving his way back there. He was behind Anzaldo and Linkerman, and now he's moved his way around Linkerman and sitting right behind Anzaldo there, although Anzaldo's still holding that. Here comes Yazik on the outside.
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you said that, because, there he is. And oh, look at that. Stouffer had to get way out of it there. And that checked up.
Hacker's going to go to the lead.
Yeah, that checked up Linkerman as well. And you said Hacker now in the lead.
Yeah, Rod Hacker basically did the crossover on Dan. Dan moved up, gave him the lane, and he took it. And now he's hugging that white line. I don't know if it's starting to get to the point where tires are starting to maybe lose a little bit of their edge and starting to slide a little bit. Here comes Yazik. Yep, right down below George Anzaldo. Now everybody's moving down to the bottom.
Oh, boy. Stouffer back in this mix now. He recovers here, making his move on Anzaldo. He gets by him clear. Now Gonzalo got to worry about the Hacker. And they find themselves in a side-by-side battle. Up front, though, it is still Ron Hacker, Dan Guerin fighting for the lead of this. Everybody back to double file.
Yeah, Ron Hacker down in the lead on the bottom, but Dan Guerin's trying to work that outside line. He's trying to bring Yazik with him. Yazik's looking to make it 3 wide as they go around Chris Stouffer. Here comes Yazik. He is going to make it 3 wide down the back stretch.
And take the lead of the race, Richie. Off the turn, Brian Yazik.
Yeah, he got a hell of a draft off both those cars and saw the lane and took it. So we got a new leader here with Brian Yazik.
This is the kind of racing Brian Yazik loves. I know Yaz pretty well, and flat out, 1.5-mile track, he'll take it all day long. Put him in a truck, put him in a cup car, put him in an IndyCar, he'll wheel it. Yazik to the front net HPP, IR18. Now Dan Guerin coming back around the outside, looking for a fight. Behind him, they try to make it 3 wide. Watch out. Hacker, Ron Hacker, Ken Hacker.
Christopher's trying to hang in there. He's going to try to go on the outside. Right now, basically, Big Joe has gotten around George Zanzaldo. George was 3rd a while ago, and now he's back to 7th. So it's all just kind of a momentum thing. If you have to lift for any reason in the middle of the corner, you saw what happened to Brandon Linkerman. You just get swallowed up, and
you got a caution. We caught one. And there was a checkup back there in the field, and Rigney's going to get caught up in it. Another car goes for a wild ride. It's Chris Lanini. Here's the replay. This started with an accordion. Oompa. Still trying to see here who checked up and why. Looked like maybe Groff checked up a little bit there, Richie. Little hard to tell, but boy, it sure doesn't end well for Rigney.
Yeah, it looked like everybody checked up, and then Chris Reagan got into the back of Lanini, and that's what kind of caused it all. Everybody check it up, and you can't slow down in these things. It's not like you just stop the car.
Right. And on board we're here, Chris Reagan. Wonder if we can get a quick on board with Justin Weaver. I'd like to see if he actually made contact, because Weaver was the last car to the scene, and he just barely got by. Here's on board Weaver. Looked like maybe the left front got clipped here.
Yeah, and you'll see how fast it slows down, and you just don't have any room to move.
Yeah.
You just got to pick a lane, and yeah. It looks like he did get a little bit of it, but yep, leaders are coming in. Pretty much the whole field coming in.
Time for fresh rubber, fuel.
Pretty much right in that pit window there. Lap 32.
Yazik out first
away.
Here.
Yep, looks like it's going to be Yazik, Guerin, and then Stouffer.
Let's talk to Connor Harrington real quick. We've got him sitting up here in the interview booth, and well, Connor has already parked it for the night. The New Yorker, not a good evening here for you, Connor. I'm sorry, buddy. Tough break. Tell us about it.
Yeah, not the night we wanted. Obviously, it was only first 10 laps, and I'm just trying to drive the top in the middle lane, and I don't know. I mean, we were probably squeezing each other a little bit. I felt like I kind of got ran off the track going into one, and then he didn't really want to make the corner, and I have to turn at some point, and then obviously the net code doesn't help either. So
yeah,
it is what it is. We've had a terrible end of the season. It's been awful. We've had a lot of bad breaks and net code, and bad strategy. So.
Well, I know you're a fan of the 1.5-mile tracks, and of course you got the win earlier this year at Charlotte, and I know you had high hopes of a good result here tonight. So it is a tough break, but listen, you still got some races to go this season, so chin up, right?
Yeah, we're California last year was good. Laguna Seca, we're hopeful we have some some decent pace. We'd like to finish, the year, not on the hook. We'd like to, finish it with the car in one piece. I think that's probably the main goal at this point. But yeah, we'll try to build on something for next season.
Well, you'll get a little bit of time off, and then we'll see you in California at Laguna Seca, and we'll wish you well there, my friend, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you then.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
All right. Cheers to Connor Harrington. Thanks. Obviously in decent spirits after a kind of a bit of a soul-crushing early exit to this race again. I mean, he had a great race in Charlotte, wins that one on that 1.5 miles there. It's certainly a little bit different track there than we have here, but again, I was looking forward to a 1.5 mile race, and well, he's not going to get to finish this one. Tyler Graff decides to go ahead and finally bring his car in for a pit stop.
Yeah, he was one of our takers on that second yellow flag and put himself in the lead. I was wondering about that, but he decided to change his mind and come on in and just get some fresh tires and a full tank of fuel.
Well, Richie, here, 100 laps to go. We've knocked off 34. It doesn't take very long to get around here. We do it in just under 25 seconds, which, again, is just amazing speed. I, in comparison to other 1.5 mile tracks, that certainly ranks Kansas up here. Like you said, it's flat out. Certainly got to rank it as one of the fastest 1.5 mile tracks that we've got.
It is. It's pretty much exactly like Chicagoland Speedway too. They built a couple of tracks that were pretty much identical, and the key is that it's pretty much wide open. It's a wide track, and it's got a healthy banking at 17 to 20 degrees. So there's a lot of track holding the car up. So you don't really need a lot of mechanical grip. It's just a matter of just getting the car to work in traffic and just having the guts to stay in it.
And Yazik stays in it with foot all the way through the accelerator, across the start finish line, on the first turn. He gets away to a nice start on Dan Guerin, but as we've seen on the couple of previous restarts we've had, it won't take long for this pack all to get back together and get to racing. You got to go back to Big Joe, the Big Joe show. Back there, that's where you'll find your first little battle areas with Ron Hacker. Now up front, it is already being contested. Yazik has been caught by Guerin. He comes around the outside. Chris Stouffer just behind them with the bird's eye view.
Yeah, as we've seen, it gets stretched out, but you can see here comes the pack, especially as these guys go too wide, too deep. They're bringing in Big Joe, and he's bringing the rest of the cars with him. So in about a lap or two, we're going to have that big, massive pack once again.
Love that shot from the minus 273 onboard camera. And Yazik continues to fight tooth and nail for the lead of this race. He wants it. He wants to hang on to it. He'd rather be up there in the clean air just riding by himself, but he's got this fight with a guy named Dan Guerin right there to his outside. Ken Hacker back up here in the top 3. Look at Big Joe Hassert. The Big Joe show is in the top 4, and he's going to be battling for the lead here in just a moment. Watch out.
Yeah, and he's bringing along Chris Stouffer, George Anzaldo. Ron Hacker's getting back in the mix. So once again, we've just got one massive pack. The tires are good right now, so holding that white line all the way around shouldn't be a problem. As you can see, Dan Guerin's kind of struggling to get that momentum going, but we've already seen as we get longer in the run, it starts to change a little bit. These guys just need to be a little bit of patience and wait for that moment.
Patience. Ooh. We see up front there, not seeing a whole bunch of it. Ken Hacker having a dart, make a move there, avoid Dan Guerin. That puts Hacker down on the bottom. Hacker going to battle him to the line. Ken Hacker officially registered as P2.
Yeah, Dan Guerin was trying to squeeze Ken, and Ken wasn't having nothing of it. He does start to wash up a little bit. Now, we got Brian Yazik kind of trying to hold off 2 lanes of traffic here. He's kind of got the clean air behind him. He can pick whatever lane he wants. Ken Hacker doing a good job taking over that position from Dan. Dan's going to go down to the bottom and try to cut underneath him. Almost thought about 3 wide there as they go into turn 1 here.
Boy, Yazik really making it tough on both of those guys to get any kind of an advantage on him. Just continues to change his line and try and just keep the air off of him. And
Yeah,
Big
right-
Joe
right.
Hassard, I'm sorry, Richie. I just noticed Big Joe Hassard is playing the patient game back there.
Well, he's seeing these guys looking at 3 wide, and there's nowhere for him to go anyways, so he might as well just kind of hold steady. We got a long ways to go still. Ken Hacker looking to the outside now of Brian Yazik.
Yazik will come across the line. They're going to try and go 3 wide into turn 1. Here we go. Dan Gehring going to make it there. He's going to back off just a little bit, all the way to the top. He's going to settle back in behind Hacker.
Looks like Dan's got the speed, but there's nowhere to go. It's hard to make that third lane work because you got to go so much farther distance-wise. You're just going to need one big draft to get by. Kind of need the move that Yazik made where he went from the top to the bottom. That's how he made that pass for the lead early on, as they go 3 wide through turn 1.
They're making it look easy right now, almost like a ballet. Here comes Chris Stouffer. We haven't talked about him in a minute. He's now back up to the front. Stouffer now officially registered in 4th. Brandon Limkeman making a move here on the top side. He's starting to come through, bringing Stephen Larkamp with him. So everybody's starting to bunch back up here, still battling for the lead side by side. Ken Hacker, Brian Yazik.
Right now, the only safe seat in the house is pretty much Brian Yazik. Everybody else is kind of on pins and needles as Dan once again makes it 3 wide into turn 1. He just can't keep that momentum going.
Wow, Hacker.
Ooh, that was close.
Boy, yeah, almost a side pot of Hacker, almost there into Yazik. I don't think I've blinked since this race is gone green, Richie. I'm starting to get dry socket here, I think.
Yeah, we gotta be careful squeezing each other down this early in the race. Here goes Dan. Dan's gonna do what Brian Yazik did to him. Go from the top lane to the bottom and retake the lead. That's gonna put Brian Yazik in the middle.
Yazik decides to stay there. He really doesn't want to give that to Hacker at all. Yazik's like, you know what? Dan's enough. You shall not pass. Speaking of passing, Stouffer goes to the inside. Ken Hacker's in the wall. Ken's in the wall. Stouffer goes to the inside.
Yeah, Chris Stouffer went to the inside and kind of connected with Stouffer.
And we stay green, but we go to the replay here. You're going to see the move.
Yeah, you're going to see Chris Stouffer and just kind of get into the side of Hacker there, and unfortunately, that's going to be the end of Hacker. Surprised there was no yellow, but we keep on trucking under green.
Yeah, and he's up on the wall. So many of those cars going by, and the car doesn't turn. And when it does turn around, it turns down to the inside of the track. So we stay green, and that's going to end Ken Hacker's night. We watch Brian Yazik on screen continue to hang on to the lead of this race from Dan Gehring.
Yeah, Brian Yazik got a really good run off of 2, picked up the draft, and was able to get down to the bottom. But now Dan Gehring's going to try to do the same thing to him, but Brian's not giving him the bottom anymore. He's going to make him go around the outside.
Yeah, and this is the run of the night we were waiting for, Richie, as we turned just about 20 laps now. Yazik goes to the inside of Gehring, down the backstretch into 3. And Chris Stouffer still riding back there in 3rd. The big move.
Going to make it 3 wide here.
Yeah, they tried to make it 3 wide back there just behind him. Big Joe still fighting with Brandon Limkeman. Limkeman having a really solid run tonight.
When Ken got into the wall there, it kind of separated the pack out a little bit. But here comes Big Joe. He's getting back into it, bringing everybody else with him. Bringing Brandon, Stefan Larkamp, Ron Hacker, and Adam Blocker started dead last as far as all the qualifiers. He is now all the way up to 8th position.
Yeah, here I was talking about Big Joe and all the spots he's picked up. I overlooked that. Blocker certainly fighting through this field. Started 23rd tonight. He's had to avoid some incidents in the meantime. So, solid run. Looking to take down another spot here. Get it from Ron Hacker.
He's done it the hard way, too, because he pitted on those early yellow flags. So he's had to race his way up to the front. He didn't do it by strategy.
Big Joe tried to make a move on Chris Stouffer. It cost him because Stefan Larkamp was able to get around. Joe really had to get out of it, and now that brings Brandon Lincoln to his inside down the backstretch.
Big Joe's kind of on his lonesome up top. Brandon Linkerman's trying to go down to the bottom, and Adam Blocker's trying to get by both of them, but he has nowhere to go. Meanwhile, that's going to bring, looks like Ron Hacker to the inside of Adam Blocker.
Ron's been the yo-yo in this field right now. He's been up in the front battling. He's slipped back down to P8, battling with Blocker.
Even though the racing's kind of wild, it has settled down a little bit. We've done 25 laps since the last round of pit stops. So we're getting close to that pit window opening up once again.
We are, yeah. I'd said somewhere between about 25 and 37 laps is what we thought, which that's a rather large window, but that's what we're anticipating on. And if they just came across the line, it's 26 laps on this stint. And the battle for the lead just as intense as it was when the green flag dropped for this restart.
Yeah, Dan was able to keep that momentum and kind of take the lead, although he's still stuck on the outside. Right now, it's kind of practicing for the finish. I mean, we know it's going to come down to a photo finish and trying to decide how you're going to get that momentum and either hold on the inside or carry that momentum on the outside. Here comes Adam Blocker.
Yeah,
He's gotten around a couple of people.
Yeah, he got by Limkeman, and then all of a sudden he clears Big Joe. Just flew right past him, and now gets there he comes again. That's another spot getting past Stephen Larkamp.
Yeah, Adam Blocker's got a head of steam on him. He's gonna go right up to the bottom or back of Chris Stouffer and then shoot down to the bottom, try to pick the draft up. But yeah, right now that's the fastest guy on the track, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. He is pedaling hard. Now he gets himself down to the inside. Yazik's done a really, really good job of playing defense with Dan Guerin and Chris Stouffer up here. But we'll see what Blocker's got for him here as he comes in towards the end of the stint. I don't know that fighting with him is going to matter much at this point. Probably just try and get to the pit stop safely. Looks like they're going to have to do it under green flag conditions unless something breaks out here. You never know when they're doing 3 wide like this at the front into 1.
Ugh, that's so tight up there.
Exactly.
We've already seen a couple of incidences there, and they're going to go 3 wide down the backstretch. No one's given up. Adam Blocker's just kind of looking at this going, I don't know where to go.
Yeah, and when I hear you say and obviously we're working in the virtual world here this evening, but you've had those moments in real life on this track.
Yeah, I mean, you go into the corner and all of a sudden there's, everybody's squeezing together. There's nothing you can do. You can't back out of it, so you just have to just kind of hope for the best.
Well, it certainly looks like a lot of actual fun here on track tonight here on the iRacing service. And Yazik, Guerin, Stouffer right now making it look just as real as it ever has. And Adam Blocker, again, we can't say enough about the evening he's had. He's got the pace now. He's made it to the party. But boy, they're going to be thinking about pit stops here any moment, and if Stouffer all over the place there.
Yeah, Stouffer drove down to the bottom in the tri-oval, and Dan didn't want him to take that, and he kind of squeezed him down and made him get out of it. But yeah, lap 33 here, working lap 33 since the last stop. So I'm going to say these guys are going to go right to the limit because you don't want to pit under green.
Yeah, it'll definitely be follow the leader when it happens. You want to be first. You don't want to be first, but what you don't want to be is out of fuel. Somebody was down on the apron back there. Brian Carey, maybe? I saw him drop down a couple of spots. Richie, they continue to go 3 wide up front for the lead of this race as we fast approach pit stops here. At some point, you got to put yourself in position to get off this track and into the pit lane. We haven't even really talked about that.
Now, one thing we failed to mention is that Mike Rigney, who is leading the Rookie of the Year standings, is out of the race, or he's back there in 36 laps down. Looks like he's still in the race, but he's way down, and the guy he's battling with is still out there. David Martinez sitting in 12th on the lead lap.
Oh, and Stouffer almost makes contact up there with Dan Guerin.
Yeah, he sweeps down and just about clips his rear tire. It's starting to get a little bit hectic out there. We know pit stops are coming. Gonna be interesting to see how they come off this turn 4 and try to get slowed down. That's one hard thing to do because that pit speed limit is early on in the pit lane, and it's hard to get that thing woed down to that lane.
Yeah, and one of the notorious things about these 1.5 mile tracks is how you get off the track into the pit lane. Always treacherous under green flag conditions. I always think of Texas Motor Speedway and what it's like trying to come down off of 4 into that pit lane. Charlotte Motor Speedway, another one that always reminds me how tough it is, but this one not much different. Guerin, Stouffer, choices to make here.
Well, at the speed they're going at 220 miles an hour, it's 100 yards a second. So, every little bit counts as far as where you come out and what position you are if we're under green.
And there we go. Guerin's off.
Here comes Guerin and Yazik. Ooh, we got a couple guys locking it up into the pit lane behind them, but we got a couple guys taking it, a couple guys not. Stouffer and Adam Blocker, Big Joe, all those guys stay out.
Stouffer already into turn 3. Brings Adam Blocker with him. They come off of 4. They're going to stay out.
Yeah, you got to get in that box just right. Every second counts. Dan Guerin up. And he is down. And it's going to be tight getting off pit lane, but it looks like everybody's going to hold steady. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where they come out relative to these guys once they make their stop. Stouffer looks like he's going to start heading into the pit lane. He does. Adam Blocker stays out.
Here comes Lemkeman just behind him. Lemkeman and hot.
Lemkeman.
Hot. Way too hot.
Way too fast. Yeah, he's definitely getting a penalty.
And Zaldo just got in behind that action there. It was actually Stephen Larkamp that was right behind Lemkeman as he was coming in, burning him down there at the line.
All right.
Blocker in.
Stouffer up. Getting tires. Battle for the lead. As we see, these other guys are coming out. Stouffer, a little bit half-second pit stop advantage on Dan Guerin, but now he's got to get up to speed.
Guys to the inside.
Here comes the pack. Stouffer's out, but the pack's at speed. Stouffer's still sitting at 200 miles an hour. These guys are going 220. Oh, we got another guy crashed in the pit lane.
On board with Jason Galvin as he follows along here. Weaver, Beard, and Brandt are off into the pit lane.
Well, Chris Stouffer, great job on his pit stop. 4/10 faster than Dan Guerin, and it's basically what he's got on the track. He's out by himself. These guys are 2x2 racing hard behind him, but they did not catch him. They will catch him, but right now, Chris Stouffer all alone.
Well, what a great stop by Stouffer to pull that off. He wasn't even the fastest one on pit lane. Looks like Blocker was one of the fastest stops. Even Jason Galvin was really quick. And there's a driver we haven't even talked about this evening, Jason Galvin, now up in the top 5 as he fights with Big Joe Hasser, the Big Joe Show. There's Jason. He started 17th tonight. Again, barely a peep from him. He probably doesn't mind that action.
Yeah, we don't want to give anybody the commentator's curse here for sure.
Not tonight. Not tonight.
Chris Stouffer's lead is gone as Brian Yazik has dragged everybody up to him and back on. Race is on. Here comes Brian Yazik. He's going to look right here to the inside. Not able to do it.
The Watchman going to let him by. Mark Cohn moves to the very, very top of the racetrack as he's got all this other traffic coming by. Here comes Adam Blocker.
Stouffer down on the bottom, still holding that white line with fresh tires. It seems to be pretty easy to do, but here comes Brian Yazik wanting to get that position back, and here comes Adam Blocker steadily making his way to the lead, 23rd to 3rd at the moment.
All of a sudden, Galvin off pace, starts to drop off there. I'm not sure what happened. On board here with Stouffer, the minus 273. Onboard camera, Brian Yazik right there in the rearview mirror, the HPP, Delara IR18. And there we are, the Big Joe Show. LPN driver, Big Joe Hasser. Somebody in the chat wanted to know if that was actually his real name, Big Joe. Well, it is his real name. It's Big Joe.
Well, right now we have 2 distinct packs going on. We have a pack of 9 for the lead, and then there's quite a gap to Brian Carey, who's leading the next pack. So those pit stops, the green flag pit stops, kind of separated the field out a little bit.
They have, and you know, I'm starting to look at the number of laps we've got left in this race and think about that fuel window we just had. You know, the green stays out. Obviously, you're going to need 1 pit stop to get this done, but if you're going to factor a caution flag into it, you start looking at the laps left and you start thinking about, well, when would I like to see one? Obviously, you'd like to see it within that window and maybe race to the green. Because aside from those incidents we had early, green has been the story of the day, as we see on an American Ethanol signage there on the wall coming down the backstretch.
No, we had some early yellows, but it has calmed down. I mean, the racing's hot and heavy, but they're just being a little bit smarter about what they're doing. And I'd like to see it go green the whole way, just to see how the strategy plays out. Because like I said, we have 2 groups. And some guys pitted earlier than others. You know, Chris Stouffer,
Big Joe Hasser to the front of this race,
going 3 wide for the lead. Dan Guerin still holding on to that second spot. Chris Stouffer's trying to make it 3 wide, but Dan does not want to let him up there. So Dan's kind of holding basically the middle and the high line. Jason Galvin getting into the mix.
You know, Joe up here doing so well right now. we'd be remiss if we just sat on this. So he is our driver profile this evening, our spotlight. Big Joe, been in the league for a long time, folks. He's one of the OGs around here. 139 starts, 6 wins, 33 top 5s, 51 top 10s, folks. A couple of poles, but Big Joe always been fast on these mile-and-a-half tracks. Always been here, always been a big part of the team here at Lionheart, and really one of the all-around great guys. Also a world-class dart player. Richie, I didn't know if you knew that, Big Joe, but he is quite handy in front of the dartboard. He will take your money, is what I hear.
He's doing a great job as he's holding on the lead. Dan Guerin, though, just got a hell of a draft on him going down into turn 3. And he's going to reclaim the lead. But Big Joe's not letting up. Big Joe's taking it back from him.
You know, Big Joe's completed like 12,571 laps in this league. That's insane. Oh, that can extrapolates like over 20,000 miles. He's led under 1,000 laps in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Maybe tonight he leads the final one for another win. Maybe he can get win number 7 here in Kansas. Yazik checks up there, Richie.
Yeah, Yazik went to the bottom and then had to get out of it real quickly as the door closed on him, and it kind of pushed him back. Adam Blocker be able to get back around him. No harm, no foul, but that could have been ugly for everybody behind him.
Well, Guerin is the only 2-time winner of this race. Will he be the only 3-time winner by the time we're done? I don't know. Big Joe Hasser's probably going to have something to say about this. I think the pit stops will dictate all. As we saw, those green flag pit stops really spread this field out just a little bit.
Dan Guerin takes the lead briefly, and Big Joe wants it back. He's feeling it tonight.
Yeah, he really is. Well, it's the race with his name on it. Why not? Show off a little bit. Seems like there was something else about Joe in this track, and I just can't seem to remember it off the top of my head. But Joe's got... Oh, that's right. He holds the qualifying record here. That's what it was. Back from season 4. Now, Joe, no stranger to getting around here fast, for sure. Ooh, and he makes an evasive move there to the bottom. Move that wants to get him back into the lead. He'll do it. If any two guys have raced around each other a lot, it's him and Dan Guerin for sure. They actually have a friendly rivalry that goes back since the beginning of the league. Old friends, old enemies, frenemies.
Gonna do it right back to him. Going into turn 3 there is Dan Guerin's gonna take the lead back. Meanwhile, Christopher's just kind of like zigzagging back and forth, looking for an opening for himself. This is starting to bring in a little bit of the next pack as I see Andrew Kinsella trying to lead those guys up to him. We're already working lap 24, 22-ish on the last green flag stop. So we're getting close to one more stop. If we stay like this, it's going to be one more stop to the finish. Dan Guerin going right under the inside of Big Joe once again. As you see right there, gets the draft. 3 wide into the corners. Guys are racing really good. Real clean racing up front so far.
I mean, Galvin really has the bit in his teeth right now. Digging down there on the bottom.
Well, remember I said there was 9 cars in that lead pack. They're now 8 because Brandon Limkin had to take that penalty. We saw him come into the pit lane a little bit fast. That was going to put him a lap down. So it's just a group of 8. But Andrew Kinsella is coming up. You got Stephen Larkamp. 1, 2, 3. Actually, it's a group of 6, sorry. Stephen Larkamp has dropped off the back a little bit.
Yeah, and he's got company because it's Kinsella in his rearview mirror. We look back up front here. It's Big Joe. I'm sorry. There we go. There's Kinsella.
I wonder what happened to Steven there. He was in this pack and then all of a sudden lost the draft.
Well, and maybe it was that. Maybe it was one small mistake that we might have missed, and it gets him out of the draft. And, of course, once you lose it, it gets to be, well, without any help, you're really not going to catch it again, are you?
No, you're not, especially if they're running single file, kind of like they are. I mean, the 2 guys up front are spread out or going side by side, but the guys behind them are all kind of single file, so they're not punching a very big hole. We're working, 33 laps to go, it looks like. 32 laps to go. So pit stops are coming.
They're coming soon. And I'll tell you what, as we go on board with Christopher and that minus 273 onboard camera, he gets by the Big Joe show. My eyes are peeled a little further back at Brian Yazik and Jason Galvin right now, who are in a very, very tough fight here. Galvin has to get out of it all of a sudden, allows Yazik to actually get some space and, boy, get a run on Dan Guerin. Dan Guerin with trouble there. It looks like he caught some dirty air.
Yeah, he might have just had to lift a little bit there, and he just lose a little bit of momentum. And, man, it really shows on the screen, and it takes a little while to build that back up. That's going to move Brian Yazik up to 3rd spot.
Well, it's either get out of the throttle or get into the wall. So Dan lives to fight another day. Now Galvin picks up another spot, though, gets by Guerin.
Ooh, now, Big Joe scrapes the wall right there. Scrapes the wall. So I don't know if it did any damage, but he's getting close.
Doesn't look like it. He runs back past Christopher, taking the lead back. Oh, geez, we're not going to be able to fit Big Joe in the same room with any of us if he wins this race.
Yeah, the race with his name on it.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job. Started 15th, and he's gotten to the front, and he's held it. He's gotten past, and he's been able to answer everybody else's pass for him to another pass right back to the front. He was battling with Dan Guerin for a while. Dan Guerin's dropped off a little bit from this pack. He's lost half a second to Adam Blocker. So he has faded off a little bit. So whatever problem he had, he hasn't been able to cover. Here comes Christopher. He's looking maybe to make a move right here. Going to the inside in turn 3. So we're working lap 34, 33. And we got our pit takers. Martinez is in.
Martinez.
Oh, we got a crash in the back. We got a crash on the back stretch. Looks like Adam Blocker.
And a big one, too.
Down.
Looks like he made contact with Yazik. I have to go back and look at this, but and it was Galvin off of turn 2, Richie. We're going to see this on the replay. Galvin wraps it coming off of 2. He gets into Yazik and then hits Blocker. A chain reaction that gets damage for all 3 of them. A Blocker straight on his lid. Surely going to end that fast driver's day.
Yeah, all that work that Adam did, that wasn't even his fault. It's just Jason Galvin got up in the wall, and then they were 3 wide and, just kind of pinballed into each other. Looks like Jason Galvin didn't even really get much damage, actually. You can see right here, he goes up to the wall, scrapes it, hits Yazik. Yazik hits Blocker, and Blocker's on his lid. Yazik's got some front wing damage, but he'll be able to get that fixed. But, man, right at the pit window.
Remember, we were talking about that a little while ago. I was saying, when do you want that? If you're going to get a caution flag, where do you want it to come out? Well, not bad right here. Opportune for this field. And at the rate that we've had cautions, this could be the final stop. This could be the one that gets us right to the finish of this race. This race last year went caution free here at Kansas Speedway. So they certainly know how to get it done. And boy, that was a very, very, very quick stop as cars start to roll off. The Big Joe Show not going to get out first. Chris Stouffer going to get out in front of him. And then you got Dan Guerin and Jason Galvin. So Galvin apparently, and we don't know, we're not in the car, we're not behind the wheel, but not suffering enough damage to have to stay in the pits any longer than he did. It was an 8.8 second stop.
Yeah. Even Brian Yazik was able to get out there fairly quick, got his front wing fixed.
All right, Richie, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll take a run to the checkers when we get back here on the iRacing Esports Network, the Big Joe Show Spectacular here at Kansas Speedway with the Lionheart IndyCar Series.
The SimPit is an entertainment channel dedicated to the world of simulated motorsports. The SimPit is a leader in providing the sim racing community with news, reviews, interviews, DIY pieces, and instructional videos to make sim racing a better experience for all. Check us out at thesimpit.com or go to YouTube and just search for the SimPit.
Welcome back to the iRacing Esports Network and the Lionheart IndyCar Series here at Kansas Speedway. We get ready to rock and roll our way to the finish of this race that now sees Chris Stouffer in the lead over Big Joe Hassard. Of course, this is the Big Joe Show Spectacular. The pace car is in. Chris Stouffer has the field out of 4, and he's on the hammer. Gets a little bit of a jump on Big Joe. Joe slept on him a little bit there. It backs up Dan Guerin, Jason Galvin, Stephen Larkamp. And clean air for Chris Stouffer as he heads down through turn 2 and on to the backstretch.
Single file start all the way down to about 8th or 9th, but we've also seen this before. Spreads out at the beginning, and then all of a sudden the pack is on top of him. Big Joe looking to go around the outside, and here comes Dan Guerin looking to go on the way outside.
3 wide, Richie. 3 wide. We just got this race restarted.
Yeah, 3 wide. That didn't work. So Christopher's going to hold on to the lead as they head down the back stretch with Big Joe in second. But here comes Jason Galvin. He was the one that actually was the instigator on that last yellow flag. He obviously didn't get any damage. So that worked out okay for him. I'm sure he's not happy about it, but it didn't hurt him too much. And look at George Anzaldo back into the mix there.
Back in
up
the
to
mix.
5th spot.
And Soup, if you're watching, buddy, we've dropped the disco ball. We got 20 to go, baby. Let's get out on the dance floor. It's time to boogie here across the start-finish line. Christopher, Big Joe Hassard fighting for it. Galvin Anzaldo fighting for it right behind him.
Yeah, Anzaldo muscling his way to the outside there, going from 5th to 3rd, not able to get to the lead. Everybody's got fresh tires, so that's not going to be an issue. Everybody's got enough fuel. So it's just going to be a chess match right here to the end.
Dude, we get to talk to George from the podium tonight. He's got a great car, and he's running, baby. He loves that outside line. He was actually running it early on in this race. He loves it up there, obviously. And as it comes off the turn, he'll drive it down the track a little bit. Got to be careful.
Oh, Joe gets in the back of Christopher. I was just watching that.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. He just cut it a little bit close and clipped the back of Christopher.
Yeah, we're going to watch
play of it.
Well, the hits don't get much harder than that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not feeling. I'm sure he feels pretty bad about that because it was not intentional. He's just trying to get that big draft. And if we stay on this angle, you'll see as they come out of turn 2, and he just clips the back of him as he tries to go around him.
Well, our minus 273 onboard camera stayed intact through that, so
Yeah, you can see
we'll
those
go on board with the Big
gloves
Joe
working as
show.
well.
Yeah. On board with Big Joe, we'll see the contact here, Richie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just misjudged it by a little bit. Nothing intentional, but I'm sure Christopher's doesn't care about that. Being intentional, he's out of the race.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. It leaves us. Looks like it leaves us with 18 cars still running. I do see that Tyler Groff, James Brandt, and Brian Yazik have come in. I think Yazik picked up some damage in that. In fact, he did. He's got wing damage, and apparently he may even have some steering damages. That car looked like it might have been crabbing sideways a little bit. He puts it up on the jack. Maybe he's going to make it back out here. He's in a battle for points. You see the damage on the front wing of the car. Tyler Groff pulling out.
Yeah, Brian Yaz's back out. So he's going to be able to get back to the back of the pack. It looks like his wing got fixed. So as long as that thing's driving straight, he'll still have a chance. He's just got to work his way from 17th to the front. In about, what's that, 25 laps left? I can't do math.
Oh, math is hard. Math is hard. 15 laps to go.
15 laps left. Close enough. Close enough for government work.
I cheated. I was looking at something that told me there were 15 laps left. So. I certainly didn't try to calculate that, Richie. Well,
this will be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it will. I mean, everybody up front here, 10-lap old tires now, here with a few caution laps on them. Obviously, you have a gaggle of drivers who are notoriously fast on these mile-and-a-half tracks up here. And Big Joe Hassert, George Anzaldo, Jason Galvin, Dan Guerin, Larkamp, Brian Carey up here in this mix now. You know, we haven't talked much about that Canadian this evening. He or the Canadian. I don't want to call him that Canadian. But Brian has picked up 14 spots now. It started 20th tonight, folks. Finds himself fighting here in 6th place. This is anybody's race to win here at this point. When we get restarted, I think we'll have about 13 laps to go. And definitely anybody's race with 13 laps to go.
Yeah, we got some interesting players up front with Big Joe leading and George Gonzalo second. Jason Galvin sitting in third. I mean, Dan Guerin's always up there, but he's got some other players to contend with at the moment. Andrew Kinsella still in the race, but he really hasn't able to move his way up like he normally does, so he's sitting in 10th. Got 17 cars left. I'd like to bring up our Rookie of the Year standing guys. Martinez sitting in 11th, and Mike Rigney is out of the race sitting in 23rd, so this is definitely going to affect those points as we only have a couple races left.
All right, the lights are out. We'll segue back to a green flag that will hopefully take us to the end of this race. Hopefully, guys don't get too overzealous here. You know, the most lead changes we ever saw here, and we're not even going to get close to that tonight. Well, maybe we will. I don't know. No, we won't. It was 39 lead changes back just last season. We've had some passes for the lead tonight, but we haven't had that many.
No, I don't think so. As far as calculated out as crossing the line, we've had a lot of passes, but it's been, basically back and forth over the same lap.
All right, here we go. Ford Mustang pace car takes that left turn down into the pit lane. Big Joe Hassard on the hammer. Here he goes, folks. Big Joe Hassard has the lead of this race here with 13 laps to go. That's how long he has to hold off Jason Galvin, George Gonzalo, and boy, it may not have been that long as they almost came together. It'll be Galvin that gets to the second spot, and George. That's Jason. Here comes Dan Guerin up on him here.
Yeah, Jason Galvin kind of muscled his way onto the inside of George Gonzalo. It's go time as they all come down the front kink here, and George is right on the back of Big Joe. But here comes Dan Guerin picking up that 3-car draft, and we're going to go side by side, too deep into turn 1.
Oh, boy, George looking to make it 3 wide. He muscles his way in past Galvin.
Yeah,
oh, look at that. Oh, watch out.
Swerves up in front of Jason Galvin. Now Jason Galvin's going to take that bottom spot. The problem is the lower line is the way you want to be, but if that guy's holding that spot, you got to go out wide, and that leaves the door open for the guy behind you. That's kind of what just happened. George Gonzalo had to check up, and Dan Guerin did a good job for missing him, but that's going to move Dan into second spot.
Talk about door open. Dan just stepped right through it. And now Dan goes to the top side to fight Big Joe for the lead.
Yeah, Big Joe. All Big Joe has to do right now is do not leave that white line. No matter what you do, you make them earn it. Now, the problem is the way they are right now, that outside lane could go across the finish line first just by pure momentum. So it's kind of a no-win situation for Joe a little bit. He's got the position, but he can't control that momentum on the outside.
Right, and just on that lap across the line, Guerin had that momentum. Wasn't ahead of him at the line, but I can see exactly what you're saying. Certainly that run off the top of 4 to the start-finish line, a good place to get that momentum. In fact, Guerin right there with him. About a half a car.
And Zaldo and Larkamp almost got together as they went into turn 1 right there. Everybody's just got to hold their line and just kind of be predictable. Otherwise, we're going to have a big pileup working on 8 to go. Got one big pack here. Ryan Yazek hasn't been able to do anything about what he's doing. He must have some damage because he has not been able to stay with the pack. So he must have more than what we saw.
Yeah,
no! 4 wide into turn 3 does not work. We got Justin Weaver rim riding the wall. No yellow flag.
I saw the Moby Dicky wing in the air. Weaver falls all the way back in this field, and the yellow stays in the stand. Green flag is out. 5 laps to go at the line. 3 wide into turn 3. Anzaldo all the way to the top. Is that who's right behind Anzaldo there? Is that David Martinez?
That is David Martinez.
Yeah.
So he's worked his way up to 4th spot. It's he's in 5th now, but it's Joe, Guerin, Anzaldo, Galvin. Oh, here comes Kerry on the inside. He almost went below the white line into the corner. That's not going to work. We are in no man's land here, so meaning next flag is going to end the race.
Big Joe Hassert just wants to be at the front of him. Here we go, down the back straight.
All these guys gripping that steering wheel as hard as they can because everybody's kind of twitching back and forth, trying to get a spot. So far, it's kind of quiet, but it's going to heat up here in about a lap or 2.
Big Joe's listening to you, Richie. He is right down there on that white line, is not leaving. Guerin continues to fight to the outside because he's got nothing down on the bottom. Anzaldo moves down, moves back up, looking for anything he can grab onto. Galvin, the dark horse, there in 4th, down on the bottom.
Yeah, there's no way that 3rd lane's going to get around them on the outside. We haven't seen that happen yet, but you have nowhere to go. The only move we've really seen is someone go from the top to the bottom, but if Joe doesn't give him the bottom, as long as he can hold on to that momentum coming across the line, this is going to be his race to lose.
Going to come to the line. The white flag is out. The flag man has it. It's unfurled. It's waving in the air. Big Joe Hassert with 1 lap to go. Can he fight him off? Galvin. Galvin saves it. No, Galvin comes back across. Takes out the field behind him. Big Joe Hassert down the back straight. He has the lead. Dan Guerin up to the top. George Anzaldo to the bottom. They come 3. Linus Stern off of 4. It's going to be Big Joe Hassert. The Big Joe Spectacular.
Dan Guerin loses it.
George Anzaldo
on that transition.
Oh no, George Anzaldo's going to finish 2nd. Tony Showen's going to wind up finishing 3rd in this race. All right, Richie, let's look at the replay here with Galvin and let's watch this.
This is what I was talking about. You can see the transition as Galvin, with Galvin and Anzaldo. Anzaldo looks like he kind of comes down on Galvin a little bit and causes that wreck. And here they come. It's going to happen in turn 1. But if you watch it, it looked like George kind of came down trying to take that spot, and Galvin was coming up. And I thought Galvin was going to save it, but came back in front of the pack.
Yeah,
here we
over
come.
George here. Yeah, and what happens to Dan? Oh, there's a transition. Got him. Yeah.
It's just like what I said, that transition is tricky. And he spins out. Actually, they all spin out, but it just happened to be that George Anzaldo spun out less.
Wow. Well,
so you can, like I talked about that apron, you can use that apron, but if you get caught in between, that's exactly what happens to Dan Guerin. He kind of gets caught straddling it.
And the straddling it results in a big mess across the start-finish line. I don't know that any of us expected that's how it would end. But I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the iRacing Esports Network with the results, the final tale of the tape, and a few drivers to talk to as we get ready to wrap things up here this evening. We'll be right back.
The Sim Pit is an entertainment channel dedicated to the world of simulated motorsports. The Sim Pit is a leader in providing the sim racing community with news, reviews, interviews, DIY pieces, and instructional videos to make sim racing a better experience for all. Check us out at thesimpit.com or go to YouTube and just search for The Sim Pit.
Welcome back on the iRacing Esports Network, and welcome back to the Big Joe Show Spectacular here at Kansas Speedway and the Plasma Tracks Victory Lane post-race show. You know, if you're struggling to find something for the person who has everything, do I have a website for you? Well, yeah, I do. Plasma-tracks.com not only produces original racetrack wall art, motorsports trophies, home decor, and motorsport fabrications are also available. You know, words really don't do justice to the uniqueness of their wares. The only way to fully appreciate their artwork is to see it for yourself, but be warned, one visit and next thing you know, you'll be trying to convince your significant other why you need a Plasma Track wall art hanging in your home. See it all at plasma-tracks.com. Use the promo code LRS 2019 to get 25% off your order. All these companies love to give you 25% off. Now, let's bring you 100% of the Sim Pit finishing order for the Big Joe Show Spectacular here at Kansas Speedway. And, well, guess who won, folks? If you're just joining us, it's Big Joe. The Big Joe Show wins his race. George Anzaldo is on the podium, folks. There may be red stripe in his future. Dan Guerin will finish third tonight. You know, he was going to finish second, and then, well, he straddled that white line there coming to the finish line. Tony Schowen, fourth place. Bart Workman, fifth. Brian Carey, huge night for Workman and for Carey. Workman picked up 9 spots, 14 spots for Carey. He'll finish sixth. Ron Hacker, seventh. Brian Beard with an 8th place finish. Chris Reagan, 9th, and Stephen Larkamp, 10th. Richard.
Yeah, Tyler Groff's going to come home 11th. James Brandt, 21st to 12th. Nicely done. Andrew Kinsella never saw him up front there, but he's going to come up 13th. He did survive. Ryan Yazek, a little problem. Did see him lead a bunch of laps early on, but a little problem at the end. Come home 14th. Damon Martinez got kind of caught up in that last big wreck before with Jason Galvin and everything. Comes home 15th. Last car in the lead lap. Jason Galvin's going to come home 16th. Brandon Linkerman 17th. Justin Weaver 18th. Chris Stover 19th. And Adam Blocker 20th. Sean?
All right, we'll take the rest of the field here. The Watchman, Mark Cohn, 21st for him tonight. Ken Hacker, 22nd. Mike Rigney. That's a tough way to take it tonight for him. 23rd. Chris Lanini, 24th. Connor Harrington, we did get a chance to talk to him. He finished 25th. And, well, Sage Karam, unfortunately, an inauspicious night for the IndyCar driver. Finds himself sitting at the end of the field here this evening. But, well, the front of the field has got to be special. And it's got to be special for the Big Joe Show and the race namesake, Joe Hassert. Buddy, I have interviewed you in Victory Lane a few times over the years. This one's got to feel pretty special, man, with just a few races left to go in this season.
It does, man. It's almost like I like this track or something.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of retribution for a couple years ago. I had that really close loss with Chris there. I if I got into him at the end, towards the end there, I apologize. I was told it was netcode. It didn't look like I got into him on my screen. I was really caught off guard when I saw him go flying, but I'm sorry about that. But second win on the year. I didn't know if I was going to make this race. Had a little bit of a gout issue earlier this week, but the meds kicked in here this morning, so I was able to get the loud pedal working.
Well, that race earlier this year, of course, is Michigan. This track not too dissimilar from Michigan, although it is a mile and a half and it fits the mold of a lot of other great mile and a half tracks. Joe, you came up through the field with all that was going on in the early cautions. We had none of that was easy. You said you're fighting a little bit of illness there, and so that had you maybe a little bit down. Man, what did it take to pull this off tonight? I got to know. What was your secret here this evening?
Well, at the beginning, I kind of just rode around and uh, we got a nice green flag run there, and that's where I made up a lot of spots. Once guys started losing their tires, I felt like the car came in pretty well to me, and I was able to manage the corners pretty well. And then we got through pit stops. I had a good pit stop, put me right in the top 5, right in that pack there. And then a couple of guys had problems, and I was kind of upset that I didn't beat Chris off pit road at the end there. I knew he was gonna protect that bottom from me pretty well, and he did. And unfortunately, we had that incident, but yeah, that in clean air, it was just you could just hold the bottom, never have to lift, and if one guy was gonna get around me, it was gonna be Dan, and he couldn't even do it. So I just had a couple of my teammates who had unfortunate luck take over on the comms, and they kept me cool and talked me home.
Joe, who do you want to thank? I know there's a short list of people you gotta get out here. I'm so happy for you. I really am. Congratulations, man.
I don't know how short the list is. I see this podium and I see George and I see Dan, and these guys have been with me since day one, and I couldn't think of a better podium to have for this race. And it's just awesome being able to race those guys. Thank my teammates. They've been great all year, keeping my head together, keeping me with things. And of course, the maker, the coiner of the Big Joe Show, Sean Ambrose. I thank you. I think GSRC, without you, Sean, this race would not be possible. That we would not have the Big Joe Show. It would just be Big Joe.
Just be Big Joe.
And love you, bud. I'm so glad you got to call this race, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. A real good feel good, a great feel good there. Thanks, Joe. And now Richie is going to get a chance to talk to Dan Guerin, who probably feeling a little bit. No, I'm sorry. We're talking to George Azzalo, not Dan Guerin. I'm sorry, George. I didn't mean to clip your interview, but Richie's got him.
Don't cut me short, buddy.
Yeah. Well, George, you've had a lot of close races this year, and a lot of times you've been right there in the podium mix and something's happened, either strategy or accidents. And we finally get you up on the podium this season. How does it feel to bring it home in second?
Oh man, this feels great. On that second to last restart, I was in 7th place and just, went for it. The high side was working all night. I picked my moments when I would try to dip down to the bottom and gain a little bit of ground. It just feels great. I nailed the pit stops. I just felt like I really had a chance there at the end, and I pushed it 3 wide just to kind of get up there. Jason definitely was giving me a run for his money. I was hoping to kind of get a little bit closer and maybe catch a nice draft and try to go underneath. But yeah, I knew the bottom was where it was going to be, and I kind of messed up that last restart and allowed Jason to get in there, and then kind of brought a few other guys back into the mix. But just so pumped to get a podium, and as Joe mentioned, this one's really special. With Dan kind of announcing that he's probably not going to be racing with us next year. And Big Joe, those guys again being there at the end. We were kind of the original crew for the Iowa meetup, and from like 3 guys, it exploded into 50. So it's just super special. I was kind of doubting myself there for a little bit, wondering if I'd be able to get back up there. I mean, this league's so competitive. I guess I just never gave up and just kept trying. And I was glad that I could bring it home in second. It was supposed to be a podium, but thankfully I didn't get caught up there with Dan. I had a couple close calls tonight. this type of setup suits my style quite a bit. I'm not very good at tire saving. I feel like my talents are in my hands, and this was one of those races where you had to be on point with the steering. So I was just, like I say, I was really happy to bring it home on the podium with these guys.
Well, it's getting pretty wild there at the end. Everybody was jockeying for position. Obviously, Big Joe was not giving up the bottom, but as we were coming to the line, it looks like it was pretty much going to be Dan in second. He's going to come up next and talk about it, I assume. But he crossed that seam a little bit sideways, and all of a sudden it all just kind of spread out, and there you were in second place.
Yeah, I had to juke there to the right a little bit. Otherwise, I was going to get collected with Dan. I mean, I think we both would have probably crossed the line before the cars behind us, but I'm just glad it worked out. Yeah, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, it's been a long year for some of your races we've been watching, but congratulations on the second place finish. Obviously, I know there's some people like you'd like to thank.
Yeah, first and foremost, my admin team, my teammates, like to thank just the members for coming, showing up, and putting on a good show. I definitely have to give a big shout out to all the guys over at Sim Experience. They produce an amazing product with their AccuForce Pro V2. I'm telling you, that has been the difference for me all season. It's really helped just elevate my driving. It's been a great product, as well as my racing wheel from Turn Racing. That package combined has given me a lot of control. And then you kind of couple that, you get the trifecta with the minus 273 gloves, and it's just the ultimate package for sim racing. So I couldn't be more happier with the equipment that I brought to the table this year. Again, the rest of our sponsors, Sam Maxwell Customs, Butt Kicker, Midwest Simulations, and the whole slew of sponsors for 2019. Obviously we thank them all for their support, and thanks again to the fans and everyone else who's tuning in to watch. So, and especially to you guys as well. You guys do a fantastic job up there in the booth. We couldn't thank you guys enough. Appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you for that. And it definitely was exciting for anybody who was watching. And we look forward to hopefully talking to you again soon there.
Thanks, Richie.
All right, there's a second place finisher, Sean.
Okay, now we're going to bring Dan Guerin in, and we're going to talk to him. And, well, Dan, you could have had second. You wound up with third. You just had to straddle that white line there at the end, didn't you? Messed it all up.
I I did, and listening to George's interview there, saying he wasn't going to try to hit me or anything. He had to go around me. George, buddy, I wish you would have hit me because you would have launched me into second place.
Would have launched you into second place, yeah.
No, that was a great finish here. I was a little hesitant about this race, but I love Kansas as it is. And I love the setup. The setup was really good. You could still pass the high side, but you had to really, really work hard for it. I ended up passing, I think, Brian at the end of one of the fuel stints there. But look at this podium. Freaking congrats to Big Joe there, man. Just he's pretty much a brother to me. I mean, love the guy to death. And George, love him to death too. And excellent run for him. Both of guys, good job.
Yeah, three of really the guys that have really been pillars of the Lionheart IndyCar series find themselves on the podium together this evening. And Dan, basically, how much is George going to have to pay you to stay in the league and keep racing? So, I mean, that's really what everybody wants to know. What's it going to take? How much money are we going to have to throw out there to keep Dan Guerin in the Lionheart IndyCar field full-time next season?
It would probably take quite a bit, honestly.
Bassie's not going for it, is she?
Yeah.
No.
No. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter to her. She supports me in everything I do. She loves the guys. She's met them all. That's come to the Iowa race. But I debated this year to join it anyways because I was feeling a little burnout and like, well, okay, well, get that first win of the season out of the way at Homestead. I'm like, oh, the season ain't looking too bad. Picked up a few more and halfway through, I'm like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it now. And I just quite haven't felt it for the rest of the season. And, having good runs like this is one thing, but I just don't feel motivated enough right now to want to continue. So I still come, I still turn my laps, I still practice because I still want to win. But it would take a lot of money and a lot of everything for me to come back next season. Because once you're burned out, you're burned out. That's why Jakku went admin, because he got burned out as well. So
Right.
And I understand it, but yeah, a lot of money.
Any rumors of Jakku possibly coming back or no?
Well, I've heard rumors that maybe, but it's hard to say with old Jakku
Okay.
there. I
All
mean,
right.
love the guy to death, and uh, we kind of all know like little secrets about other people, not like secrets, but like who may be coming in, who may be leaving, and just things like that. Jake come back was rumored, so if he does come back, who knows? He's a champion.
Yeah, multiple time champion. Hey, listen, maybe some investigative reporting might be in order. Thank you, Amjad, for suggesting that. And we'll do some kind of an expose in the off season or something on it. So, a Lionheart IndyCar exclusive. So, listen, Dan, congratulations, man. I know you have a list of people you'd like to thank. Go for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. Thank the league, the admin, everybody. My whole team. Love the guys to death. And did you see them guys tonight? Look at that. They were top 6 cars. Well, minus Connie wasn't on the team, but all my boys were at the top front there again. And also got to thank my sponsors here: Lock Precision, Midwest Simulations. Make sure you get them spotlights. Things are awesome. Tyler Graff with graphics, and Sim Racers for mental health.
All right, Dan. Thanks, buddy. It really, I'm glad I got the opportunity to call these last few races of the season here and have some fun with you guys. Great podium this evening. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you too.
I appreciate it, Sean, and definitely love having you back here for the last few races, especially since I've announced my retirement. Get to have my buddy Sean here announcing me on the way out the door. So love you.
All right. Take care, Dan. And well, Richie, a lot of fun with you in the booth this evening. We got a really good race this evening. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good race there, and definitely an exciting finish.
All right. Well, it's time to thank everybody. I want to thank a few friends of mine that were watching this evening. My father was watching at one point. He wants to race, but that probably wouldn't be a good idea. I also want to thank my old buddy Scred, and no explanation needed. He knows who he is, and you don't need to know who he is, so that's okay. Also want to thank First Medical Equipment. They, of course, have been the source for medical supplies and equipment in the Burlington, Iowa area for years because of their superior commitment to provide the absolute best in product quality and customer service.
Sim Experience, the team behind the AccuForce Pro V2 direct drive steering systems, by providing unparalleled realism and the most advanced tuning features on the market. The AccuForce provides a significant advantage to any sim racer. It can also make for an effective tool for real-world drivers. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, including their GS5 seats, Stage Series motion systems, and Sim5 software, visit simexperience.com and use the promo code SimXLion to get 5% off your Sim5 software.
Butt Kicker Products add instant immersion to any game. Unlike a subwoofer that moves air, Butt Kicker products move actual mass, producing a haptic immersion that's powerful and accurate. Butt Kicker products add that missing driver to car connection, bringing more realism and immersion to your sessions. See all of the family of products at thebuttkicker.com. Use the promo code LION25. Guess what you're going to get over there if you use that promo code? 25% off your order.
To contact any of the sponsors you see on the screen right now, go to LionheartRacingSeries.com. Click on 2019 sponsors, read or scroll to the bottom where you can click on the company logo. The original music on every GSRC broadcast comes courtesy of June Lalonde. See the screen for how to contact her. On the screen now are just some of the company's equipment and software that made this broadcast possible. The Lionheart IndyCar Series returns December 11th for round 24 from Laguna Seca. GSRC and IESN will be there to bring you all the action. Hope you join us.
Thanks, Richie, and look forward to joining you in December at Laguna Seca. But on the screen now are some of the upcoming broadcasts that GSRC has coming up. Check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. We'd love to see you over at GSRC to watch some of those with us. And, well, while you're there, you can also find our website, globalsimracingchannel.com, or check us out on any one of our social media outlets. Facebook, type in Global Sim Racing Channel. We're an easy find. Twitter at GSR Channel. Join us. And, of course, on the gram. Yes, GSRC_gram. And while you're here, haven't done it yet, subscribe to this YouTube channel here on the iRacing Esports Network, and do it over at Global Sim Racing Channel too. But finally, on behalf of everybody that was a part of this broadcast tonight, Richie Hearn, I'm Jed Yaman, the great Dougie Beard. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Yes, watching the Big Joe Show. Spectacular at Kansas, won by Big Joe Hassard. So with that said, we're going to go off and storm the castle for our old buddy Soup. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.